right? You know, everything I was describing, she was like, I'm kind of worried. So we went to the doctor and he was just kind of a blasé, like, well, it's just a panic attack, you're all right, like, kind of thing. But there was no, like, for me, I was like, there's a sense of urgency here, like, I'm having a heart attack. they were kind of like, yeah, it's just a panic attack, like.
Hi guys, it's Steph. So we are now on episode 3 of Mind Your Mindset, and today I'm joined by the wonderful Rachel Adam. So Rachel, do you want to just tell us a bit about yourself first of all?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Rachel Victoria Adam. I'm currently Miss West Lothian GB 2021, going to compete in the Miss Great Britain finals in September. I'm 28 and I work for a financial company within the investment banking industry.
Hey, thank you so much for coming on. I know we've been saying for a few weeks now.
I know.
Trying to shuffle everything around, but yeah, so thank you so much for coming on. And again, like, I know we've done lives for Unmasked and stuff as well together, so you know, it's good to have you on, because I know that you're the same as me, like pushing for better for mental health awareness and funding. So do you want to just tell us a bit about the kind of background with yourself and mental health?
Yeah, so for myself, so personally, I had really bad social anxiety. I couldn't go anywhere by myself. Like, even like a trip to the local co-op would have been an issue. I always had to have my mum or a friend or somebody with me anywhere out, like literally anywhere. Even if we were out and like I needed the toilet, I would have to have whoever was with go to the toilet with me. It was just such a thing about going somewhere, anywhere by myself. As well, when I was younger as well, I did lose a friend to suicide, so it has been quite close to my heart since then as well. I've been involved in quite a lot of fundraising since that time.
Yeah, so I know I can totally relate to that, because obviously with my anxiety, and even talking about it for me is hard, because I feel as if like even talking about it for me is sometimes a trigger, but I totally relate, because it's the same as me. I can't go anywhere just now. I can't go anywhere without my mum, and I'm like, come on, Steph, you're nearly 30 and you can't go anywhere without your mum. But it's like that mindset that you're in, and no matter how many times, like, I've had conversations with Robert or like my mum or friends, and they've said like, you're fine, like, it's I don't understand it, like, where is that coming from? That, but it's like an overwhelming sense of fear of being out by yourself without that security of someone that you know being with you.
I think as well, for me, it was people looking at me like I went through bullying and stuff in school like that as well, so it was always kind of like a thing, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I always felt like I had to look perfect when I left the house.
Yeah.
So if I was going out in public and if anybody looked at me, like, what are you looking at? Like, if I got something on my face, is there something, like, what's wrong with me? Am I not wearing it? Like, my mind would just go mental. And so I think it was always the case as well, if you're by yourself, I'd always feel, are they looking at me because I'm by myself? Do they feel like I don't have anybody? Do they think I don't have any friends? Like, so it's all, there was just so much that I just couldn't go anywhere by myself. I think it stemmed though when I was really, really, really young, like primary school age. I couldn't go anywhere, like I couldn't leave my mum, because I always had a sense of panic that something bad was going to happen if I left there. So I didn't go to my school camp or anything when I was younger, because I just couldn't leave my mum. So I don't know if it stemmed from that. And it was like, you know, I always kind of felt that she needed me, if you know what I mean. So then as I got older, it got to a sense where actually, no, I needed her and somebody to be with me all the time. So yeah, I think it probably stemmed from that fear when I was young that something was going to happen if I wasn't with them.
I think, do you know what, it's funny you say that actually, because I've never thought about that. And just when you said, I didn't go either, I think it was like Cobowie or Gairlochhead or something that we were going
up the road, like it wasn't far.
Yeah, like ours was the same, and I didn't go either. And I always said for years, I was like, oh, you know, I couldn't go because I had something on, but it wasn't. It was the fear of kind of leaving my mum. And maybe that was a lot to do. I think obviously when I was growing up, it was just me and my mum. So I think maybe that had a lot to do with it. But
Yeah, see, mine wasn't. I have
I
like
know,
my
I was going to
dad,
say
my
that.
brother, like, didn't
Yeah,
care
but you're
about
really
them,
close to
only
your
care
mum
about
though, so
yeah.
like you're the same
We
as me,
are
you're really close to her,
very
so
strange, yeah. Maybe
yeah.
that's why, because I've made her do everything with me. But yes, so even I remember once as well, so there was 2 occasions. So I was in karate when I was younger, and also like the girl guides, and one of the camps, so the karate camp, I remember going, and bless them, like my brother was there and everything. No, like, it was not a thing, but and I remember I was like lying in the bed, like sobbing my wee heart out, and they were like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "My mum will be missing me." And they were like, they were trying to say like, "I don't think she is," in a nice way. And I ended up having to stay with like there was like a female like supervisor with us basically. She was one of the karate coaches. I ended up having to stay in her room, and my mum and dad came up the next day because it wasn't far. It was like not too far.
Yeah.
And he ended up coming up and spending the day with us. And my mum was like, "Right, you coming? Do you want to come home with us, or do you want to stay?" And I was like, I'm staying." So, and then obviously I had my brother, and me and my brother are like so close as well. Like everyone thinks we're twins, we're that close. But and I remember I stayed in her room again at the night, and I was like crying my wee eyes out. And she would wake up and get up, and she's like, "You okay?" And I'd be like, "Pretend I'm sleeping." Because I didn't want her to know that I was still crying.
Oh no.
I know. And then when we went to the guides, I went to the guides camp. So obviously, like, was it brownies? Maybe it was brownies or guides, but I was a little older at this point. I was probably about 10, 12. And I remember it was like camping, and there was a spider in the tent. I was terrified of spiders. And I think that's what kind of triggered it for me. Like, and I was like, "Did you get the spider at the tent?" They were all telling me they had, and I just didn't believe them. So come to go, like, it was like time to like get in your tent, kind of go sleep. And I was like to the guy leader, and I was like, "Can I phone my mum?" And she was like, "No." And I was like, "I need to phone my mum." And she was like, "No." And it just got to the point, I think it was because I couldn't speak to my mum. I just escalated, and my mum had to come pick me up. And she brought me home, and she had to sleep in bed with me that night. So I was lying in bed, and she said that in my sleep I was like crying in my sleep. And I was like, "I need to go home because my mum will be missing me so much." And my mum was like, "You're home." So yeah, I was so bad for it.
Yeah, I think like I'm again like I think I was the same like when I was younger, but I think it's as you grow up, and I mean as I grew up, it seemed to be when I was around maybe 16 or 17, that's when the panic attacks kicked in.
Yeah.
So and then it got worse because I felt as if and it was strange because I felt as if I could leave the house. But it was when I was out and about that I was starting to panic and things. And it was actually one of my close friends at the time. And, you know, I felt she was like a comfort blanket. Like I remember I used to, if we were on a bus or something, I used to lie down on her knees and things. It was crazy. Like people must have been looking at us thinking, what are they doing? Because I was like, it was so strange. And I was like cuddling into her legs but it was like a comfort thing. It was really, really, really strange. And then it subsided like after a couple of years, and it was actually just before I had Kyle, and it kind of stopped, and I didn't have it for so long, and then it came back a couple of years ago, and it just came back with a bang, and I feel as if it's back, you know, kind of it just came back 10 times worse, and it got to the point. But I think the pandemic hasn't helped.
No, of course.
Being stuck in the house, I have felt worse because when I was going to work and stuff and, you know, getting on the train and I was having to do those things every day, but being stuck in the house, I thought, oh, this is quite comfy. Like, I don't need to go out and I don't need to do anything. And I didn't have that mindset of, you've got to go and do it. My mindset was, you know, I'm fine. I don't need to go anywhere. I can stay here. And that's what I think has caused mine to be so much worse lately.
Yeah, for me, I think it was when I started high school, and that's when my panic attacks. And I remember going to the doctor, like I was saying to my mum, like, "I'm having a heart attack, I think I'm dying."
Yeah.
And my mum took me to the doctor, and they were like, "It's a panic attack." And it was just because I think in primary school I was so comfortable, you know, I had my best friends and I had all of that kind of there. And when we were moving to high school, it was a very big change. And everyone in my class obviously wasn't coming to the same high school. You know, some were going to different high schools and things, and it was just a thought of like, you've spent every day with these people for the last 7 years, of your childhood, and then now you're going into like this next stage of your life, and some of them weren't coming. What was going to happen with your best friend? Are you still going to be friends? There was a lot of anxiety on the move to high school, and that's when my panic attacks started, and they kind of continued through high school until when I went to university. I think that's the first time I had to, because I moved out and I went to university in Dundee, I had to then go do something by myself. And I had to do it by myself. My mum couldn't move with me. Like, my friends couldn't move with me. Nobody was moving with me. I literally went there not knowing a single soul, and made like the best friends I've ever had in my life as well. So, you know, I just had to take that leap. But I think that is where I kind of started to change.
Yeah.
And realise, you know, some things in life you have to go by yourself.
And I think, you know, that's what I keep telling myself that as well, because I've got myself into a kind of mindset just now where my mum's off work at the moment, and I think that I've been, the last couple of weeks I've been using my mum as a crutch. So like if I'm, you know, kind of feeling a bit anxious, I'll phone her and say like, just chat to me while I do things. And then I'm starting to think to myself, what am I going to do when she goes back to work? I'm going to be like, exactly. Not at work. You'll need to down tools, stop whatever you're doing right now, just to speak to me. But I think I'm going to need to just learn that I'm going to have to do it on my own. But it's strange because sometimes I can go and do something and I'll be perfectly fine. And then other times I'll go and I'll just like not be able to do the school run, or I'm panicking.
I think that's what people don't often understand as well. Like, they'll say you've done it before, but yeah, and then, but we're kind of like, every day your mind is different. Your mindset is different every day. Your thoughts are different every day. Your feelings are different every day. Mm-hmm. One day you could be feeling so confident and, you know, I'll go to the shop by myself and I'll go do that by myself. And another day I'll be like, nah, I need you to go with me. Or no, like, I can't do that today. Working from home, as you said as well. So, you know, that has created an anxiety for everyone, because now things are going back to normal, and everyone, I think, is starting to get a bit of anxiety about going back to normal. Yeah. Even myself now, I've been working from home for over a year, and I'm thinking, when I go back to the office, it's going to be like so strange. Like, what is it going to be like? I used to have anxiety of like situations that aren't even happening yet. Yeah.
And that's exactly how I feel. Like, I feel like that just now because I'm apprehensive about when they say, you know, that's us, it's time to come back into the office. And I'm thinking, and then I start overthinking it, and I think, wait, because I'm going to need to go through, you know, doing the school run, doing the childminding run, you know, going to the train station, parking the car, even parking the car is giving me anxiety. I'm like, finding a car parking space. And then getting on the train, and it's like everything, and I'm overthinking it. But I think just going back to, like, obviously we were talking about us being quite young when we started experiencing this. How did you feel like when you first started kind of taking panic attacks and things? You said obviously you went to the doctors. Like, how did you feel back then that you kind of got treated when you said, you know, when they kind of said it's panic attacks? Like, how did you feel?
Yeah, so it was kind of like, when I was having them, we didn't know what was happening. Like, I had never had a panic attack. When my mum, like, she was just kind of like, I was feeling like my chest was sore tight, you know, everything I was describing. She was like, I'm kind of worried. So we went to the doctor, and he was just kind of a blasé, like, oh, it's just a panic attack, you're all right, like, kind of thing. There was no, like, for me, I was like, there's a sense of urgency here, like, I'm having a heart attack. they were kind of like, yeah, it's just a panic attack, like, just practice breathing. I actually ended up, like, I think I actually ended up with an asthmatic inhaler, because they got so bad that I ended up couldn't breathe. So yeah, so it was just kind of like, yeah.
And it's that's why I just wanted to ask that, because I had the exact same experience where when it first started happening, I was the same as you. I was like, there's something wrong with me, like there's something wrong, I'm having a heart attack, or and my mum is asthmatic, and she was like, you know, and I actually was taking her inhaler everywhere with me just in case I did have an attack. And when I went to the doctors, I got the same as you, but I got it's a panic attack. You know, what are you wondering? It's a panic attack. And I said, right. And they said, there's nothing you can do for it. It'll just go away. It'll either go away or it'll get worse as you get older, but it's fine. And you know, back then when, you know, we were younger and things, there was no sort of kind of push on mental health. It was just kind of like, that's what it is. Deal with it. You're not, you've not got arms and legs hanging off, so you can go. And I think that now, do you think now, like back then when we were younger, do you think now that there's more of a focus on that for younger people, or do you think younger people still experience that when they go?
I think it's doctor dependent. I'm not gonna lie. I've been to doctor like for several things, and every time every different doctor I've had has kind of reacted or treated me different. I've been to a doctor before for, when I was in my old work, I was really struggling mentally with things there, and she really listened. She was like, no, like this is not on kind of thing, she was so helpful. And other times it's kind of been like when I was younger, and it was like you're all right. You're not tired. But yeah, so I think it is doctor dependent. Maybe that doctor themselves had experience, even for example, I had pneumonia and I had went to the doctor 6 times, and it wasn't until the 6th doctor I went to and she was like, you've got the exact same symptoms as my husband and he's got pneumonia. So it was like doctor dependent, no one really, unless they could relate to you and what you're saying, I don't think they really understood you, if that makes sense. So they could probably tell you from a textbook what was wrong with you, but and when you're sitting there, everyone's symptoms are sometimes different as well, especially with mental health. There's not a specific symptom that you have. You go to the doctor and say that you're feeling a pain in your chest, but really it's actually a mental health, because you're so anxious about things that it's a pain in your chest. It's nothing to do with your heart. It's not that your heart's not working or that you are having a heart attack. It's your mental health.
So, exactly.
So I think a lot of it is doctor dependent, how they can relate to you, and if they've had the same a similar same experience as you, if they've heard something like that before, even like my mum had kidney stones, and she went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, I don't know what's wrong with you, and she ended up passing it that night, and she actually took it back to the doctor and said, this was what was wrong with me, and she was like, oh, I would never say, because a lot of my patients are rolling on the floor in pain. My mum was like, I told you I was in pain. People show things differently, show pain differently. So it is all kind of dependent on them, I think.
Sorry guys, my ring light's just gone. It's gone out. I'm gonna try and see if I can light a bit of light in. No, but I totally agree in terms of I can't, it's fine. In terms of being doctor dependent and things, I think you're so right, because but I think that now probably there's more of a focus on mental health. So it's more that I think that if a young adult had gone to the doctors, I think there would be more of an explanation in terms of, this is what it is. But again, I don't think that there is that same support out there. So we didn't have that support when we were younger, and I still don't think that there's enough support, especially for young adults. I don't think that there is enough support there, and I think that's what needs to really be addressed. If a young person is experiencing mental health, it's scientifically proven, if it's caught at a young age, it can be dealt with pretty quickly, and the chances are that when you're younger that you can cope with it more going through into the rest of your adult life. So I think that it's so important for there to be that support and those services available, and I think that a lot more can be done to address that, but I don't know if you feel the same way.
No, definitely. Unfortunately, I have seen and heard of many cases, particularly during the pandemic, where a young person has gone to a doctor or reached out for help and they've been denied support and help, and they have actually ended up taking their own lives. So it is very hard to see that when somebody has gone, they've followed, the structure, they followed it to the T, they've gone and asked for help, they've said, we all say, go ask for help, speak out, do this, do that. They've done that, and then they've kind of received a rejection in a sense, or one particular case I know of, that he was kind of told that they didn't believe him, that he was just lying, and to that extent, and then when he felt that there was no other way other than to end his life after he'd asked for help, it is very sad to hear of that.
Yeah, and I think I completely agree with that as well. I think that there has been, and especially during the pandemic as well. I think that a lot of young people not being at school and things, and it's really being at home, and maybe if there's things going on at home as well, you know, that's something that, you know, really during the pandemic should have been addressed. And not going to get political about it, but I just think
we're not going to that. But
yes, we won't go into that. But yeah, definitely, I think that it could have been, a lot of it could have been addressed a bit better. I think that there is, like we said, not going to get political about it, but I think that there is, you know, a lot more that can be done in terms of support, and I think that that's why, you know, so many people are pushing for services just now, you know, like, you know, SAMH and, you know, especially the Mental Health Foundation as well. I've seen have been doing some things. I mean, there's lots of different charities available, and then obviously Unmasked as well. We actually had a trustee meeting yesterday, and we were sitting down and, you know, speaking about the things that we wanted to do carrying forward. And one of the things we want to do is get, you know, help and services available for young adults. So just now Unmasked is 16 plus, but we want to, you know, kind of make sure that we have a children's section as well, because we've seen the kind of need for it, and you know, that kind of surge in young people really experiencing. But I think again that goes back to when we were younger. If we had that, there wasn't, you know, so much awareness of mental health. So again, we thought we were having heart attacks and things. There was no sort of ever kind of any you know, education on mental health as well, whereas I think that that's changed a lot as well over the last few years.
No, definitely, yeah. But even with the pandemic, you know, I feel like I have really built up my mental health really well, and I've got a good mindset now, so I don't really have, like I've said, I've, you know, I've really worked on the anxiety. I can do things by myself now. I don't always need to be here. But with being in the pandemic, I feel like your anxiety is just growing. As you said, working from home, going back to office, that's going to be an anxiety. And leaving my dog, like I have such an anxiety just now about leaving Benji. Like honestly, I feel like he has to be on my side constantly, and I walk through and be like, where is he? Like my mom's like, sleeping. Do you know what I mean? But
it is, it's
wandered
like
off. He's away with the dog. You know, he's obviously in the house, but I just have that anxiety that I need to know where he is. I need to know he's all right. And do you know what I mean? And even like when I go down to Sean's and I'm like, oh, like, I hope Benji's okay. And he's like, what's going to be wrong with him?
I love it because Benji's just like, Benji is like your life.
Me. And you know, it is like things like this. And I would leave him every day to go to my work, and I, do you know, not that I wouldn't have a second thought about him, because my dog I think about all the time. But what I mean is I would never have that anxiety over him that I do have now. So I feel like lockdown has created a lot of anxiety for people also that probably didn't have anxiety before.
Yeah.
So this is very new for them, and they're probably thinking like, what is wrong with me?
Yeah.
I see a lot as well, like I've got like people on social media who are now anxious about leaving the house because things are back to normal, and they're probably thinking, what is wrong with me? Like we've been locked up for nearly a year, for over a year, and things get back to normal. I can go out, and I'm thinking, I don't want to go out. Like, do you know what I mean? So I think it's bringing on a lot of health now as things are starting to open again, that really needs to have a big focus on as well.
But I think as well, just like you touched on, it's like daily life, like people's daily lives have, you know, when you've got mental health and you're living with mental health, your daily life isn't the same. It's not, you do not have a normal routine or a normal day. You'll have your good days, but not, you know, someone living, especially with long-term mental health, is not, you know, it's the daily life. But I think that, just like we were talking about just before we came on, sometimes it's about your change and the shift in your mindset as well. And I know that sometimes it's not as simple as that for, you know, certain conditions and symptoms and things. But I think for a lot of people who at the moment are just having a bit of anxiety, or, you know, someone who's maybe just having a bit of stress or something, I think that having that positive mindset, and we say it all the time, you know, that, you know, just think positively, but it's actually scientifically proven that if you're speaking positively, that, you know, your brain creates serotonin, which is obviously that actually helps, and it combats, you know, the depression and anxiety. So but you have that as well. Like, you have your routine of your positive affirmations and things. So you can tell us a bit about that too.
Yeah, so I always preach, manifestation, positivity, your affirmations. When I was younger, this again wasn't a thing. Like, I'd never heard of it. This has only been quite recently. Even when I was in uni, this wasn't a thing. I'd never heard of it. But now I feel it's becoming more and more current and more relevant. I do feel so when you wake up in the morning, say nice things to yourself. If you've just got ready and your hair's looking good that day, it could be small as that, just like your hair's really good today. Saying positive things to yourself will then start to view you in a positive way. When you start to view you in a positive way, you'll start to then view the kind of world in a positive way. And then when things start to happen to you, I was quite in a bad mindset before. When anything bad can happen, I was like, why me? Why is it always me? Like, oh, for God's sake, me again. And I started to think that I was a bad person because all of this bad stuff was coming back on me. Because I believe in karma so strongly as well, I felt, this is all happening to me because I've been such a bad person to somebody. But really, it wasn't. The things that were happening to me weren't bad. Like, although the situation might have been bad, I feel like if I hadn't gone through those things when I was younger, I wouldn't be where I am now. When something bad happens to me now, I'm in such a good mindset that I think, like, this is going to sound so weird, but I'm thankful it's happened because now I'm going to grow from that. I'm going to learn from that. And I'm going to be like a better person. So it is all about kind of having that positive mindset, viewing things in a positive way that, going forward, that is actually going to help you.
Not hinder you. Like, I totally agree. And I think that as well, that and a lot of people, don't realise this as well, like, but when you're actually thinking negatively and when you're in a negative mindset, when you're kind of radiating that negativity, when you're talking negatively, it actually does make you worse. So it physically makes you more exhausted and things as well. So
I feel like when you're in a negative mindset, the way you react to things is negative as well. So, like, someone could do something and you're like, you react so negatively to such a minor thing that it would blow up. Whereas if you're like in a positive mindset, for example, like, imagine one of the kids spilt the milk, right? And you're in a negative mindset, you're going to be like, oh, for goodness sake, like, why did you do that? Like, kind of thing. Whereas if you're in a positive mindset, they're sitting like, oh no, like, I spilled the milk. They're like, that's okay, we'll just wipe that up. So, and do you know what I mean? So whereas where you've been in a negative kind of situation or mindset, you've then put that negativity on them. They're going to put the negativity back on you. It's going to end up going back.
And I always say that it's like negativity breeds negativity. If you're kind of, if you're kind of spreading that negativity as well, then the situation round about you is never going to improve. But again, it's like, if that did happen, if it was me and the kids had spilt milk and things like that happen, so it actually is putting more strain on me physically as well. So when I'm negative, it's then starting to cause physical changes in my body. So it's not just the mental side of it. And I don't think that people realise that sometimes. So if they're, really worked up and stressed and things, and they're thinking, after they kind of wind down, they're thinking, I'm exhausted. And that's because your brain has actually had that negative physical effect on your body as well. So I think it's about, people always say sometimes, and they brush off that, you need to kind of, manifest and positive vibes and things. And people say, it's not that simple. But sometimes it is, and sometimes it is just about doing that. And you'll actually see the physical improvements as well as the mental improvements. But again, it's not a solution for everyone's problems. But I think if, people who are suffering with mental health, if they can try and implement that in certain degrees of their life, it will actually improve.
Definitely. It's definitely helped me even with my anxiety. Now that I'm thinking more positively, when I go out, I said before, like, I felt like people were looking at me. And now I'm going out and because I've given myself such the affirmations in the morning, I'm going out and I'm like, maybe they're looking at me because they like my outfit. Maybe they're looking at me because they like my hair. Maybe they're looking at me because they like that. And like, you know, just things like that. Whereas before I was in quite a negative mindset, and I was like, why look at me? Do not like my fit, do not like my hair, do not like do you know? So now I'm just, you know, when you do have such a more positive aspect on life, and you know, you can go out, and now I feel like my anxiety has not gone. I wouldn't say it's gone, but it's definitely less, and I feel like I'm more in control of it now. So when I feel the anxiety coming on, I can kind of like pinpoint it and say like, no, Rachel, like this isn't like, you need to like start like thinking whatever is triggering anxiety, I start to thinking positively about it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, definitely. And I always just like to finish with this, and because I think it's always interesting, you know, especially when you're looking back. But if you could go back now and give yourself any piece of advice back then, what would it be?
Honestly, I think it would be to like, don't care what anyone thinks, because, and I know this is so cliche, people say it all the time, but the less you care, the happier you are. Like, I spent my whole like high school trying to please everybody else, and at the end of the day I wasn't really happy. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like when you stop caring what other people think of you, about you, what you're doing, anything, you just start to excel and grow so much.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, it's amazing just to see, you know, like you've gone through it and you've had that, but again, you can relate to someone else who's going through it just now, and they can take hope and inspiration from you that you've overcome it and you've managed to get yourself into a positive mindset yourself, and especially going through that, you know, growing up as well. So thank you for sharing it with us, and hopefully again that, you know, people can take some you know, solace in the fact that, you know, other people have gone through it and come out the other end, and you're doing amazing now and you're doing amazing things. But the fact that you're now using your experiences to help others as well is amazing, because, you know, sometimes it just takes that, you know, someone else to say, I've been there and I know how you're feeling, that really helps. But thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Joining me. And yeah, I'm sure I will do a catch up very soon and see how things are, and see how you're getting on. But yeah, so take care, guys. Thank you for joining us again, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.